Firstly, let's start with Jasmine, right? Jasmine, I met because we were dating the same guy, right? I met Jasmine like 2016 era, summer 2016, around there. Um, Basically, long story short behind that was the fact of this guy that I basically grew up with. Let's call him Dread. Long story short, there was this whole debacle about a car, and we listen, we don't judge. Basically, he got a car, and I like tried to put it in my name. Anyway, the night that I met Jasmine, I was supposed to go register the car. So Dred and I had a time to meet up with each other, whatever the case is. He ended up calling me a little earlier than the time that we were supposed to meet up. And in the phone call, he's irate and there's a whole bunch of nonsense going on in the back. And he's just on the phone like yelling like, "Yo, Cheyenne, come get this car, come get this car, blah, blah, blah." I had somebody in the back like, "Yo, my brother's gonna come get this car, whatever case is." He's like, "Your brother not gonna come get shit. Cheyenne, come get this car, I'm gonna send you the address." I'm like, okay, cool. But not cool. At the same time, I'm kind of like, what the hell? So I call one of my other homegirls and I'm like, what should I do? Because it's this time in the night, like it's like 10 in the night, somewhere around there. And I'm like, this man's calling me with all of this hoopla in the back, telling me to pull up to this, whatever, whatever. Like, it sounds like he's in a fight, in a brawl, something. And little me, pull up to do what? Like, and now I'm getting fought for what? I don't even know what I'm getting fought for. So, what? So, anyway, I'm like, let me pull up because the car's in my name, you know what I'm saying? So, at least, like, insurance-wise, blah, 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 blah. So, I'm like, it's in my name, so I need to go and look about this car. End up getting an Uber, going in the Uber to whatever address he sends me. And the address to me looks familiar because we had like a little joyride moment, one of those, get dressed, come outside with me, whatever, whatever. I did that. And he pulled up on this like random block and was acting like he was looking for people. So I remembered that when I pulled up into the area and I'm like, is this nigga playing with me? I call him immediately. I call his phone back immediately. Like, what's going on? When I do that, a female answered the phone. She's like, "Oh, is this his cousin? Is this his cousin? Blah, blah, blah." I'm like, what? And I hang up my phone immediately because one thing I don't like is people playing on my phone. So I hang up my phone immediately. Go back again and she answers again. And she's like, "Is this his cousin? Because he said his cousin was coming for the car, blah, 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 blah." At this point, I'm looking around for the car because I'm still in the Uber and I don't see the car, blah, blah, blah. I hang up from her and I call back my homegirl that I called earlier. And I'm like, bro, like, why am I here at this address? And this girl's answering the phone, talking about this, this, and that. I don't see this car, blah, blah, blah. I'm so irate that the Uber driver is even telling me to calm down. By the time I spot the car, like the car is kind of like double parked. So I really couldn't see it, but I like moved my head around the passenger seat and then I was able to see it in the street. So I jumped out the Uber and I walked straight to the driver's seat because in my mind, now I don't promote violence, but in my mind, as soon as he opened this window, I'm running it in his mouth. Because why do you have me outside at this time of night playing around on my phone? Who's this female on my phone? What's up? So I get out the Uber, I go around and do just all of that, and I knock on the window, and the window comes down, and it's this little light-skinned girl. And I'm like, so I'm like just stuck on stupid, still on the phone. She's like, "Oh, hi, are you his cousin?" Blah, blah, blah. Like, the girl in the car is talking to me, and I'm still on the phone. She's talking to me, she's saying whatever she's saying. He's like, "Oh, he just got arrested, and he told me his cousin was coming for the car. I called his little brother as well." I'm like, "Can you open the door?" So I get in, she goes over to the passenger seat. She's like, "I don't know, he threw the keys, I don't know where it's at." She ended up finding it. She moved over to the passenger side, and I got in the car. She keeps on with this cousin spiel. I end up putting my hand on her knee like, "Sis, I have to tell you, I am not his cousin." She was like, "Oh my God, are you his girlfriend too? Blah, blah, blah." I'm like, no, like that's a dude I mess with or whatever, but I'm not his girlfriend. Anyway, child, we get down to the nitty gritty of it all. I find out that she's the girlfriend and he has several other girlfriends and he's in the precinct down the block. Hold on, I'ma feel like yumping. No, what do you feel like it? Anyway, We go on this whole little joyride, me and this girl, and I'm still on the phone with my friend too at some point, and I think she like knows of my friend. At some point I say my friend's name and she's like, oh, what's that, blah blah blah, from blah blah, and I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, ask if she remembers me, like I was there when they had a fight party, I had pink hair. And like my friend is hearing everything and she's like, pink hair? She's like, Cheyenne, I don't remember her. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And it's crazy because at some point, me and Jasmine was talking about this the other day, how I was sitting there and I was texting my friend like, yo, this is so sad. I feel like I want to cry, but I'm not finna cry in front of this girl. And as soon as I texted that, I looked over and Jasmine's crying. Anyway, 5 seconds later, I think she ended up getting a direct deposit. Them girls sucked up them tears so quick. I'm like, cool, this actress. Moving forward, we ended up even running down to this man's house at like 2-3 a.m., waking his mama up, and rightfully so, because I went and I grabbed the original. I had copies of everything, but I wanted the original title and everything that I gave him for the car back after finding all of this out, because oh no. So went there, took all of that. I think Jasmine took a couple of phones that he had or whatever the case is, I guess like with the intent to like try to go through it or whatever. Anyways, at the end of the night, we ended up even going down to the precinct, trying to see if we could see him. Couldn't see him. Shortly after that, because there was like a little things that happened in between, but shortly after that, because I think the night after, he ended up like pulling up on her and trying to like, you know, smooth things over with her, and he ended up calling me, trying to prove to her that I wasn't who I said I was, you know, typical nigga shit. With all that being what it was, I'm little FBI. So I ended up finding her on Facebook, like, sis, please don't have your man call me and tell me whatever. We had a little conversation. That was the end of that. We squashed that. Probably like a couple months after, she ended up adding me on Snap. And it said by contacts. I'm like, whatever. And I've had my number for so long at that point in time, like, it was possible. So I'm just like, okay, whatever, who is this? It wasn't until I actually watched her snaps and I realized who she was. Like, what? So I'm like, okay, I guess she got my number from that night that he tried to call me. I just let it be. And, you know, we just interacted here and there. It wasn't until some post that she ended up saying something about, you know, engaging in some devil's lettuce and how she's usually by herself when she does it. So I'm like, I do that too. Let me see what it's hitting for. So I'm like, yeah, I replied to it like, oh girl, please, we can link after the night we just had the other night. Like, and it was so lit because they ended up, before he got arrested, they had ended up purchasing some devil's lettuce that he never got to engage in. So on our little joyride, we ended up partaking, like right before she started crying and stuff, we ended up partaking in that said devil's lettuce. So I'm like, girl, after the little night we had not too long ago, you know what I do, so we could link, like, whatever. So she ended up being down with it, ended up linking up with her. And from there, like, I think we just, like, gauged a little cordialship. And, you know, partly, I'm not gonna lie, partly, it's definitely out of spite of him. And I feel like genuinely for me, too, because I feel like I'd never beef with the female over the male. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not fighting no female over no dude. Like, that's not my MO. My MO, I'd rather be cool with the shorty in spite of the dude before all of that. Like, and truthfully, it don't have to be all of that. But if you want my type of time, then what's the problem? So that was what it was. And then we ended up actually genuinely taking a liking to each other. Like, we ended up actually liking each other, friendship-wise and otherwise, but we're not here to talk about that. Anyway, fast forward all of that. Jasmine and I's friendship took a turn around 2018 vibes, where there was a discrepancy with my card on Uber. I had a conversation with her about it, or at least tried to, and the conversation went very much left. And after that, I just decided to remove myself, because we've had several instances with that before, where it's just like we talk or we disagree about something and it'll go into the realms of where I feel like, all right, now I feel like you're being disrespectful towards me. And it's just but so many times that we're gonna do that, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, fuck all this. And that's what I did. So yeah, I removed myself from that. And then the following year, 2019, I ended up making my first like YouTube video on my last page. And it was in regards to that whole situation. Jasmine ended up finding out about it. And when she found out about it, clearly it didn't go over well or whatever the case is.
Because you knew prior to that I had problems with my account. And you still allowed me to contact you to get Ubers for me. Like, you knew that there was issues with my account because I contacted her several times, sent her money so that she could order Ubers for me so that I can get from destination A to B. So that's one. That's one lie. I feel like she put my name on, and I don't appreciate that because you knew my account was fucked up and you still did what you did for me. Anyways. Two, when she contacted Uber and then she hit me up with the screenshots and then we tried to talk about the situation. First of all, I'm gonna be honest. I had no idea why sis' account was blocked. I had no idea where we would have shared a payment method. I don't know. Like, I'm genuinely confused.
There was a whole big backlash and back and forth and whatever on the internet, and a lot of things were said and a lot of things were done, and you know, for me and a lot of people around me, a lot of boundaries were crossed, and it was just clear where certain morals were. And I mean, it is what it is now, because it's just like, I also understand the fact of like, if you felt disrespected by what I did, I also can't dictate how you respond to it. You know what I mean? So like I've already explained to Jasmine, it wasn't a surprise to me what she did. Basically what she did was she called out a health issue that I have or whatever the case is, and she put it on blast on the internet in response to the video that I made. So yeah, I already explained to her, like, I didn't feel hurt, like boo-hoo, like, oh my god, like, why would she do that, oh my god, she did that, whatever. I just felt like there was a point in time where we were just having general conversation where this topic was familiar to her, in a sense where she knew someone in her friend group in the past that had the same condition that I have, and they opted not to tell her. They told everybody else or whoever they were cool with or whoever they were comfortable with, but they opted not to tell her. And those people in that friend group still ended up telling her, and Jasmine felt offended by it. And she said something that was off-putting to me. So I reached out to like my friend circle and I was like, you know, I kind of really want to tell her because, you know, of where our friendship and relationship has reached. But she said this and now I don't know how to feel about it or whatever. And them at the time, they were like, girl, no, because if she's that type of person, then God only knows. Don't say anything to her. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I kept it quiet. It wasn't until, again, like later on in our friendship where she was going through certain things where I felt like, you know, she was being vulnerable with me. So I was like, okay, you know, it's fair to be, you know, vulnerable with her. And at some point we were like kind of sharing the space. So I'm like, let me just be, you know, let me just tell her what's going on. And I told her she wasn't, you know, offended or taken aback or, you know, whatever. She just took it like, you know what, damn, I didn't know that happened to you. I'm sorry that happened to you, blah, blah, blah. So to fast forward all of that to how she responded to the YouTube video, like if we didn't have that situation that I mentioned where she knew of somebody else with the same condition, I probably would have felt slighted. But because I knew how she already moved, when I told her, I was already at the point of, I'm going to start my YouTube and I feel like this happened to me for a reason. So I want to talk about it and educate other people about it because I wasn't educated about it. I feel like that's the reasoning of this being a part of my journey, to educate, to teach, whatever. I already told myself, like, if I told Jasmine about it, I would have to be okay with it getting out one day and I have to, you know, come to terms with that. So by time it finally did happen, I wasn't, oh my God, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that was that. Fast forward into like 2020 era, I was also in a period of transition because I was transitioning career-wise. I was transitioning in a sense of I was like preparing myself to move out of my family home and all these other things. So mentally, I was in a space where I didn't want to leave any unfinished business. I didn't want to leave anything unsaid, undone, whatever, with anybody. And any debts that I have with anything, anybody, any entity, I want that cleared before I move into my new space. So rightfully so, I felt like she was one of those things, because also in our friendship and in our relationship, like when I was going through things, like I said in my first YouTube video, when I was going through things, she was definitely there and she was definitely helping me. She's definitely put money in my pocket several times. So, child, I don't care if it was $1 and it took me 5 years to give you back that dollar. You're gonna get back your dollar. Period. I don't care who you are. Period. I've also been through so many funny money dealing things with people when it comes to funds. I don't even play that. I don't play that with a soul. So actually pulled up on her, like literally went to her house, knocked on her door, rang her doorbell, whatever may have you, and handed her her funds in full for everything. I just feel like, no, it's the principle of everything. Like, because in my mind, you can say anything about me, but I don't owe you anything. And you can't tell nobody I owe you anything. You can't tell nobody you gave me anything, yada, 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 yada. None. So I gave her all of that. And in exchange in that, I'm like, listen, if you want to talk about everything that went down or whatever the case is, then we could do that. If not, cool. So we ended up, you know, sitting outside discussing everything that happened and how we both felt on, you know, our ends. And, you know, we just came to a little agreement. We were cordial. We were cool. We were in a nice little space or whatever the case is. It was even at a point in time where I was like coming to her house after work just to like kill time, because I used to have a ride that was taking me all the way to my house. So I used to come there, kill about an hour or two at a time or whatever until my ride came, and then whatever. So that's how like cordial we ended up becoming after that whole YouTube situation. Shortly after, we ended up just like not speaking. Literally, she did my hair one day. She colored my hair for me one day around like 2021. And probably like a few days after that, if not that, probably that night, I think she told me that night, she ended up blocking me. And that's just due to something completely outside of like me and her. So I kind of figured that at that point in time too. So I honestly didn't take it any type of way. It was just like, okay, well, do for do at this point in time, because it was a point in time where I just ghosted you and stopped being friends with you too. So I guess here it is, my turn. You know, the tables turned type shit. So I never really took it personal. But now in doing this and these videos, just talking about everything and putting everything out there, I actually did end up reaching out to her again a couple months ago. I reached out to her like September, October, somewhere around there. Just because when I'm doing this, I'm doing my due diligence on any and everybody. You understand what I'm saying? Before I come and speak on anything, I want to make sure you're not still speaking on something or speaking on me and it's incorrect and I have to come back and correct it. So in doing that, I actually seen that she was actually speaking like nicely of me and wishing me well and blah, blah, blah. So that made me like, you know what? Let me go get my old little phone shorty here and see if she got the same number type stuff and reach out to her and see how that go. And it ended up going well. We ended up speaking that day. And we've ended up actually seeing each other a couple of times since then. And we actually have our own little bitty of content to update you on how that current situation is going. So that's Jasmine's story.